With the southern winds remaining light, it looks like the bays will stay green and the fishing for trout and reds will be the thing to do. The stripers and the hybrids will be under the gulls and hitting top waters early, so sit back and relax because it's time for the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're back in business after the holiday weekend, hoping everyone had a fun and safe 4th of July with a little bit of fishing added in. Rick, I know I did.
Did you fish?
I did fish.
What did you catch?
I lost my voice. Well, you know.
Well, you're hooping and hollering so much because you were catching all them fishes?
Yep, all of them.
Well, good for you.
All them fishes. It was fun. Fun with family, fun with friends.
I was testing Jose Cuervo quite often, so that's what my deal was this week.
Were you? Well, yeah. I had a little bit of tin cup myself.
That's my girl.
Roll on. All right, well, let's check in with Dave and see what workbench wonders we have to look forward to for the show today.
I've got all my fingers. That's the good things.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, my wife drove off with all my firecrackers. That's the only reason why.
A smart wife.
Because I like to blow things up.
Gosh.
A lot. So, but we're going to be talking about spoons. We're going to be blowing up some fish with some spoon fishing.
There you go.
All kinds of spoons.
There you go. That's kind of blowing up. I like to hear, Dave. All right, let's start out in the FISHBITES Upper Coast region with Captain Carl Weston and see what this weekend's fishing is going to look like. Floor is all yours, Carl.
All right, guys. Well, let's hit that fast track east to Sabine Pass. And the reds are chasing bait along the jetties and inshore along those grassy shorelines. Keep an eye on your GARMIN while you're heading to your next hot spot. You'll see these fish. Look for those little drop-offs and potholes. The reds have been suspended in like 10 or 11 foot of water in these areas. You know, the water temp's a bit cooler there, and the reds seem to like to sit there and ambush their bait there. Try throwing a Berkley Magic Swimmer in blue mackerel color. It has really worked well in the past week. They really seem to turn on to that. Another option is always a finger mullet on a simple slip rig. Now, the bull reds are still thick on the outside of those beautiful jetties in Galveston, down the beachfront. And the water's been crystal clear this week. Like I said last week, Rick, it's like fishing in Florida. We don't get that often, but with the lack of rain, the water has really cleared up. We've been running free-line and shad on about a 5/0 Trocar, using about 3 foot of Diamond Mamoy leader because that water is so clear. You want to sneak up on them a little bit. Don't forget to take your some shade and some sunscreen. It's a must here lately. We've got a picture today of Mr. Pavlok with a nice red.
Nice.
And rolling right over to trout. These fish have been turning on. Like I said last week, we had that snap of cold weather a couple of years ago, hit them a little bit, but man, they're really back. And the heat here doesn't stop the trout. So the oyster reefs in the middle of Galveston Bay has been a good spot for top water action in the early mornings. You know, you could throw a FISHBITES Fight Club shrimp on about a 1/4 ounce jig head. It has been on point this week, Rick. Also, the Berkley Chopo 90 and bone has been killing it for 2 years. Shrimp on or a small croaker on a popping cork is always your live bait option in this area. We have seen some nice fish brought in, you know, along the rocks, Texas City Dike, fishing the potholes in the same small cuts in those bigger bays. And on the windy days, just keep an eye out for those oil slicks and birds sitting on the water. This will lead you to the fish pretty quickly. So we got Mr. Jeff with a trout doubleheader.
Nice. All right, let's roll offshore, bub.
Rolling offshore, let's talk about a little kingfish. The kings have been scattered a little bit this year for sure. The offshore bite has been a little strained this past week as well. We're used to finding big schools of kings over bottom structure that will just hang there most of the summer. But this year it's been a little more challenging. We've had to run a little more from spot to spot, pick 1 or 2 here and there. Not typical for us this time of year. Now, last week we finally saw some bigger fish in, which is a great sign. Big females schooling up a bit. Still scattered for the most part, but all of our old tactics are still working. Don't give up. It's not you. It's the fish just being scattered. You know, our top water method is still number 1. We're drifting live bait or slow trolling around structure, using large swim baits like the Berkley Magic Swimmer and a Chopo 120 and mullet. Those have produced some nice skies on bait. The oil platforms in the 130 to 160 foot range have marked a lot more fish in the last week or two. And a tip, you know, if you see good bait around the rig, stick with it a little bit. I'm guaranteed there's kingfish that are feeding. The clear water inshore, same offshore. It's amazing. Crystal blue clear. You might want to change your rig a little bit, lighten up on your hooks, lighten up on your leader, maybe throw some fluorocarbon out there. The fish can see really well in this real clear water that we're not used to having. So that's affecting the bite a little bit too, Rick. And we got a fish picture today of Jeremy and Gary, who put a big 48-pound on the boat. And thank God these guys aren't in any of the tournaments I'm entered. So that's a winner right there.
It sure looks like one. What else you got for us, wahoo?
Okay, yeah, summer wahoo is good. As well, they're smaller fish, like we talked about. They're fun to catch and eat. Wahoo dip pairs perfectly with a glass of that 10-cup whiskey like we were talking about, Rick. Run a smaller leader, smaller hook on these guys, trolling the same way. There's still some big fish out there. I've seen some in the 60s and 70s still. But deeper water, tequila sunrise, 400 to 700 foot-feet guys. Throw 8 to 10 knots, the marauders, the R&R tackle wahoo magnet, tip or naked. Have fun, drink responsibly, guys, and have fun this weekend.
All right, Carl, thank you so much, man. You did a good job. Tell us about this wahoo photo.
This wahoo photo today is Daniel, and that was about 2 weeks ago, so we're cheating a little bit. That was a little bigger than they are right now.
That's all right. It works. All right, bud, we're going to go and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the Upper Coast region. He says inshore redfish chasing reds and free line, some bait around or cut shad on the beachfront on a 5.0 trocar hook and 3 feet of mammoy leader. And then offshore, kingfish, tracking down the kings with Sirius XM fish mapping and slow trolling hard swim baits like the Magic Swimmer or light hardtails around the structure in 130 to 160 foot depths is going to work for them kings.
There's never a bad time to show off a big wahoo.
Nope.
Photo. Ever.
Never.
All right, we've got you covered in the Upper Fresh region, and by we, I mean Mike McFarland, who has the 411 on Fork, Tawakoni, Texoma, Ray Roberts, Weatherford, and Lavon. Let her rip, Mike.
Hey guys, great to be here as always. Getting hot here in this area. The lake level of Lake Fork is about 6.5 feet below full pool, 39662. Water temperature is 86 to 89. Water clarity 1 to 2 foot visibility. The bass fishing really continues to be excellent. Offshore structures like long points, road beds, humps, deep shell beds, and ledges are really your best location. Big worms like the Berkeley power worms, can't beat them. Plum, apple, green pumpkin, and red shad are your best colors. Also try your football jigs in natural colors. Crawfish colors seem to be the best, your orange or green pumpkins. And also be sure to have a little bit of blue in there. I've noticed that blue inside that skirt's getting a few more bites than some of the others. I'm also seeing on Fork a little early morning top water action. Basically, that walking type lures like your Berkeley Jaywalker or the Chapo, it's real sporadic, so it's hit or miss. You can have it one day and then nothing for the next two, so no 2 days are really alike. Let's talk about Texoma. Water warming in the upper 80s. Bass good early mornings on windblown points, backs of pockets with buzzbaits and the Berkeley Jaywalker and El Chapo. The temperatures rise during the day and the sun gets up, hit the rocks, the rock shelves. They really come into play with green pumpkin jigs, ultraviolet speed craw trailers, shaky head worms with a Zoom Magnum finesse worm, and anything shad pattern crankbaits banging through the rocks is really good. And again, also that Berkeley 10-inch power worm is so hard to beat in plum colors for summer bite. Lake Tawakoni, same thing, 80s and 90s depending on the depth where you're fishing. The early morning bass fishing is really good. You know, Texas rig flukes and swim baits, especially in the backs of the creeks. But the vegetation frog bite is on pretty much all day long if you stay with it. Around the vegetation and the lily pads and stuff like that, you can really catch a lot of those fish. Shaky heads and stuff like that around docks and things. Be sure and dip your tail chartreuse. Lake Ray Roberts, water temperatures in the high 80s. Bass good on frogs and topwater baits. Again, the El Chapo and any of those walking type Berkeley baits are really going to do well. Early morning hours only. Then move to the grass, fish your jigs and shaky heads in the offshore structure, and the big worms and stuff like that also in pumpkin and oxblood colors. Lake Weatherford, I don't think I've ever told you about Weatherford before, but it's a great fishery. Water temp's 85. The bass is good on shallow docks with square bill shad patterns and Texas rigged ribbon tail worms. Shaky head finesse worms also working in the plum and red bug colors. And that kind of covers our bass. Actually, we got one more. Let's give you Lake Athens with Guide Jay Bonner. The fishing is kind of fair there. It's got a little hot. It's 86 to 90 degrees. that's 0.35 feet low. The bass are on the docks early mornings with topwater and underspins. And after that, you really kind of got to run the main lake and look for the offshore open water schooling. You can find some fish on the grass lines and humps with Texas rigs and sea rigs, but overall that lake is kind of starting to slow down, and a lot of skiers and things happening there as well. Moving on to crappie. Let's go with crappie with Jackie Wiggins on Lake Fork. The crappie really stacking up for a summer pattern. The bite's been a little more inconsistent the past week with the drop in temps, but the key is to move around a lot. You find the fish that really want to bite. The best patterns now are brush, lay down, summertime trees, and underwater bridges in 13 to 28 feet of water. Minnows are still your best. Always best in hand tides. Sometimes some of the soft plastics will do well, but I love the minnows. So here's a couple great picks of an awesome day with Jackie Wiggins.
Nice. Those are some big old slabs, bub.
Big old slabs, buddy.
All right, tell us about the stripers.
Lake Levon. They're looking about 5 to 10 feet of water early mornings. By about 9, you need to get a little moved out farther, and 9 to 17. But 14 feet seems to be the magic number. Minnows and jigs in the timber and brush. How about we talk about stripers and hybrids? Let's go with Matt Cartwright on Tawakoni. Tawakoni's been on fire. Hybrid and sand bass schooling everywhere near Tall Man and Daybreak. Slabs and swim baits are your best. Here's some beautiful, beautiful fish that were caught with Matt Cartwright last week.
Tell us about that picture again, bub. Oh, there we go. We got it.
Yeah, beautiful fish. Beautiful, big hybrids right there.
All right, what else you got?
And I got Lake Levon with Kerry Thorne. The white bass are schooling about 15 to 25 feet on main lake points and humps. White or chartreuse slabs in the deeper water, and swim baits if you're shallow.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get the catfish next week, so we'll save that for next week. Thanks so much, Mike. Here's the hot spots from the upper fresh region. He says, he says that Lake Tawakoni, the bass fishing continues to be excellent all day long on topwater lures around and in the vegetation. The guides continue filling limits of hybrid stripers and white bass on a daily basis with consistency, and catfishing is absolutely on fire.
Well, the Garmin Middle Coast region is taking the spotlight next, but first it's Dave Farrell's time to shine for rigs and techniques at the workbench.
Time to shine.
Dave.
It's gonna be shiny. Shiny like these spoons, you know.
Ooh.
Very shiny. That's
Blowing
what's so
up
great
them
about
spoons.
spoons. They look like a fish.
We'll be back. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bajio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Garmin. Plot your paradise. Fibertex. Leaders in fiberglass fabrication and repair. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, we're here at the workbench, Dave. We're going to talk about jigging spoons, working spoons, trolling spoons, casting spoons.
We're talking about spoons because, you know, they're one of the most great versatile baits there are. You know, fish have never stopped eating them. You know, they were probably one of the very first lures ever made with some guy broke the end of a spoon off and put a treble hook on the back of it. You know, and because it's a wobbly, you know, flashy looking thing, it imitates a bait fish almost perfectly. So, you know, I got like 10 or 11 things here, good reasons to use a spoon. One is you can throw them a long way. It's a it's an aerodynamic piece of metal. You know, they come in, you know, 1/4 ounce all the way up to, you know, 1.5 ounces, 1.25 ounces if you want to, I imagine. But you can throw them a long way and into the wind. You know, they're great for when you're fishing in the wind. So you can really punch into the wind with them if you need to. So that's one of the great things about them. You can cast them a long way. They're very shiny, so you know they imitate either a bait fish or you know a wounded fish swimming through the water, and they can be seen a long way away because of that shine. If you've had a good sunny day, even in tannic water, you know that flashy, shiny thing really attracts attention. They're very versatile. There's very few lures that react so differently from how you retrieve them. You know, if you can burn it across the top and have it work. You can put a trailer on it and run it through the lily pads. Yeah. You can slow roll it on the bottom, close to the bottom with the trailer in deep water. A lot of times, the guys are using great big spoons now. You watch them on TV. The bass pros now are using a giant spoon for bass that's almost this big that I use to catch 50-pound wahoos and kingfish on. It's amazing what a spoon, but with its vibration, will make a fish react to it. You can use gold or silver or even copper spoons. You can find copper spoons.
Right.
They even paint them and put all kinds of prisms and pretty colors on them. So if you're worried about if you think they're only eating pink, you can go out and find yourself a pink spoon probably. They're great for schooling fish. If you can see fish on the surface and you throw a little spoon in there and they're busting little bait fish, they're going to pounce on that spoon almost immediately. They're great for the flats because you can use a weedless spoon. When you've got a ton of grass in an area and the fish are suspended and you can't, it'd be almost impossible to use a plug with treble hooks because you're going to get caught up in the grass. Well, if you get a weedless spoon with a single hook on it, it comes cruising through that grass and you don't get hung up nearly as much. You'll get hung up every once in a while, but not nearly as much, and your lure stays in that zone and gets eaten a lot more. The biggest trout I ever caught actually was on a gold spoon that was weeded up, and I was burning it across the surface, and a huge trout just ate the whole mess. So it's amazing what you can get away with.
Now, what do you do for twisting the line, Dave? Some of these spoons?
That's one of the downfalls of a spoon is because of the way it moves and it's so erratic. It'll flop over, and if it keeps turning over, it's eventually going to spin up your line if you don't have a good swivel on it. I use a ball bearing swivel, not a barrel swivel. I got one there that I put a barrel swivel on just to show you what the difference between a barrel swivel and a ball bearing swivel. But a ball bearing swivel will keep your spoon from twisting up your line. And it also makes the spoon act a lot better as well. It adds a whole lot of action to the spoon. And what I do is I put on a little split ring,
right.
And then I put the swivel on that, and then I put the split ring onto the.
Now, a few years ago, we started with a lot of these vertically jigging, like this vibrato, Berkeley vibrato.
Yep.
Jigging spoons is how they refer to this.
I've also done that with gator spoons and other heavy-bodied spoons. And yeah, you can catch everything from tuna. Great for tuna fish offshore. Believe it or not, tunas eat really little tiny things sometimes.
Right.
And if you try to throw a big bait at them, you'd be surprised how small of a bait a 50-pound tuna will eat. And they will pile all over one of those things if they're eating a bunch of tiny
And don't
pilchards.
tell me a crappie won't eat this little pink one. And they come in a variety of different colors. So, I mean, now you can vertically jig spoons because you still get that vibration.
Yep, and you can. I know that thing will show up really nice on that Garmin Live Scope as well. You'll see them coming right to it.
Hey, good job over here.
No worries.
We didn't have enough time.
No, that was some good spoon talk, gentlemen.
That's
spoonage.
Oh, boy, she knows about spooning, I bet.
Wow. It's time to go fishing in the Garmin Middle Coast region with Captain Bink Grimes. With his help, we might even get a little catch in. I'm just on the spoon talk. Hi, Bink.
What's going on? Hey, July normally affords some of the lowest tides of the year. We've had a switch to southeast winds lately. It's kept tides at about normal level. That's good news. More water we have in our bays this time of year, the more real estate we have to fish. When we can get any kind of influx of tides in July, we like it because normally tides in July are a lot like our winter tides. West Matagorda Bay grass beds continue to produce catches of trout. It's all dependent on the tides, and the incoming tide has been the strongest in the morning. Merlot, Little Johns, and soft dines, and slamming chicken bass and sass have been thumped on the outer bars. Got Glen Ging caught and released trout to 29 inches while drifting in East Matagorda Bay. That switched that southeast wind that lowered the barometer, greened the water up, and allowed us to fish those deeper ponds out there. The reefs in the middle of the bay have been wadeable as well. We haven't seen many calm days here lately, but water's been, dirty green, and places like Drool's Lump, Half Moon Reef, Long Reef, and Three Beacon Reef have had plenty of fish waiting on that drop off. And they've been banging, topwaters, those Berkeley topwaters, The jaywalker, the hijacker, and the drift walker have been really, really good. Also caught them on bass assassins and mirror lure soft duns. And Freeport trout are best around the rocks and channels on free-line live shrimp. There's been some flounders in those same locales and some mangrove snappers as well. Port O'Connor, Noonday Reef, the Hump, South Pass area, holding trout on 5-inch bass assassin, saltwater shad. I still like throwing the red shad. It's an Old Faithful. And then the new magic grass is good too. Many captains said their fishing for trout has improved because a lot of people remain vigilant and releasing a lot of these trout, and it's just been a better quality trout being caught here lately. There's a photo. It's a nice 5-pounder we caught and released while working deep shell in Matagorda. We'll go to redfish in Port O'Connor. Redfish begun to show them back in numbers in the back lakes, Shoalwater, the lagoon, the maze of back lakes around Matagorda Island. Best baits have been the smaller bass assassin, sea shad. Around Matagorda, it's been kind of one here, one there. Since the wind switched to the southeast, more of that water's been pumped in the bay, and the better fishing's been off the points along the south shoreline. Live shrimp and mullet have worked best. Waders have found scattered redfish later in the morning after they've caught their trout. Around Freeport, the jetty area has been best for reds. Carolina rig finger mullet and pogies have worked on the incoming tide. Surf anglers have found redfish in the first gut early in the morning on the incoming tide, and then guide Mike Siegel said there's a lot of bull redfish just right off the beach in about 35 foot of water on sardines, as well as gaff tops and sharks. Offshore, red snapper still continues to dominate. Out of Freeport, kingfish and red snapper are good around those rigs, about 25 miles out. Most of those snapper are running in the 10 to 18 pound range, just really, really good fish. And in Matagorda, it was calm enough this past weekend. We had seas in 2 to 3 feet. A lot of boats ventured out there on the holiday weekend, and they were able to find good catches of snapper, and also lots of cobia on the weed lines and tons of kingfish all over the Gulf right now. Our Gulf waters are running about 85 to 86 degrees. So that's another solid report in the GARMIN Middle Coast region. Keep practicing sound conservation, please, and release more of those trout than you take.
All right, bud, you're leading the charge. I appreciate it. The mirror lure hotspots this week are the trout are good on bass assassins and mirror lure little johns while wading sand and grass near West Matagorda Bay. Redfish are good along the beachfront on fresh table shrimp in the first gut on the incoming tide, Brie.
All right, Rick, up next we're checking in with the middle fresh and lower coast regions. Plus we are talking to our friends from Berkeley, so stick around and we will be right back. Am I right?
You're right.
Whoa.
Are we all right? Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Sirius XM Marine, weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Shallow Sport, Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Penn, let the battle begin.
As you can see, my good buddy Steve Wolf from Pure Fishing is in here with us. And you know, Steve, last year we talked about some really cool stuff on the topwater. What are we going to talk about? What are we introducing this year?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you're right. We talked about the Chapo last year, the Jaywalker, the Magic Swimmer. And this year we're getting down in the water column. So we want to get down 3 to 5 feet with several new baits that we're offering. I'm going to start off with the hit stick. So we have this in the 120, and we also have it in a 95. You'll see it with the flash disc technology, of course, the Fusion 19 hooks.
Right.
You see it here in just a great looking sangria pattern, new penny pattern. So these you actually control the slow speed. They're made to troll.
Right.
And we're just bringing them in. You can also give them a good slash and jerk as well.
So this is the full spectrum of colors here that we would offer in the hit stick, correct?
That's it. And you're going to see it across the board with everything here as well.
All right, so if we want to move on to another silhouette, as you know, is really important to me.
Yep.
So what if we were to move into a silhouette such as a pilchard? So we would go to the Juke.
The Juke's going to be a big one for us. So that's the Juke 100, and you can see it's kind of a taller body, flat-sided crankbait. You can work this just like a jerkbait, pull it along, twitch it, rip it, and just have a steady retrieve with it as well. We're also going to have that in the 85, and then we got some bigger things coming down the road.
Which is a much smaller size. The other thing that I really like about this is obviously the Jeff Page Chrome, one of our Florida captains. But, you know, Steve, the one thing that I really love about this plug is that you can hold the rod tip up, work the rod tip slightly like this, and now it will flash and roll like you see a mullet do in the wild.
To it.
All right,
It
so
really does.
now years ago you purchased another company, but this is now called the Berkeley Stick Shad.
The Berkeley Stick Shad. So we're reintroducing this bait in the main two sizes that we really saw a lot of interest in. So we got a 90 and then we got a 114. And we're offering it in floating and also in sinking as well. We're going to have 8 different colors in it in each, size.
Right.
And of course, the action on this is just amazing as a twitch bait.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It certainly looks just like a thread fin or a pilcher, depending on the size you're using.
Definitely.
But we do have the cane walker. I love this for throwing the tunas.
Yeah.
Because of the chugging. What other colors do we have?
So we're going to have 10 colors there. It's the ones that we have right now in the larger 120 size. This is a 110 size cane walker. So we just shrank it down a little bit more subtle, a little more finesse, when you're working in a little bit calmer waters, but it's casts a mile and you can pop it, you can walk the dog with it. Very versatile.
Berkeley-fishing.com.
Berkeley-fishing.com. And the great thing is we now have our direct-to-consumer market set up so you can buy directly from our website.
All right, guys. Don't forget to tell them Rick sent you. Thank you so much, Steve, for being here.
Appreciate
Good job. Bree, where are we going next?
All right, we're looking into the STARTRON Middle Fresh region on Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, LBJ, Buchanan, and OH Ivy with Matt Loescher. What's going on, Matt?
Well, Bree, we're going to start out this week talking about some crappie. I haven't got a chance to elaborate on them much lately because the bass fishing's just been so good this season. But we've enjoyed a really good year so far for the crappie fishing as well here in the Middle Fresh region. And I'm going to start off kind of talking about with the rain. So, we've gotten some rain here recently on the eastern edge of the region this past week, but a lot of the lakes farther west still haven't had much. And I'm mentioning that because I'm sure a lot of people are disappointed with the lack of rain and some of the lakes being a little lower. But for the crappie fishing, it's a positive situation. And, when these lakes stay lower and clearer, the crappie tend to hang out in big schools. They gang up in places that are predictable, and they're just more catchable, in my opinion. The reports I've been getting from the anglers all over the region are confirming just that. They're ganging up in big schools, and they're catching them really good all over the place. So for the sake of time, I can't touch on every single lake. But, of course, Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn, they're always standouts for the crappie fishing, and they're good right now. LBJ has been producing a lot of fish this year as well. I'm hearing a lot of that from Jared Poole and his crew. But even if you're on another water body, the patterns are all pretty similar. So I was just going to kind of give you a rundown on that for the week. It's all about the shade and the cover right now. On these lakes that have a lot of deep docks, you can find them suspended underneath those deep docks with the cover, the shade, using the shade for cover. And then, of course, any of the bridges that cross over deep water on any of these water bodies are going to hold fish as well around those pilings. And then, last but not least, the timber. A lot of our reservoirs are full of standing timber, and that's always good as well. You're going to want to look for these types of structures that are out on the edges of flats, creek channel ledges, and points. Find the timber in those kind of places or where the bridges cross over those kind of places, and that's where you're going to find the crappie. 15 to about 30 foot is the depth range that these fish are going to suspend in during the summertime. There are a few lakes where you find some a little bit shallower than that, but 15 to 30 foot is a really consistent number to focus your efforts on all over the region. Now, for the bait right now, live minnows have been outproducing the artificial jigs lately, but the jigs are still catching some good quality fish too. They're just a little more lethargic right now, and so dangling that live bait in front of them is a great way to catch them. And I'm going to leave you there on the crappie report with a photo of some gentlemen that fished with me this past week, doing exactly what I've just described there on Toledo Bend, and they're showing off some nice slabs they caught. Thanks for the great trip, guys.
All right, man. What else you got?
Going to move on to white bass. They've been biting really well early in the mornings and late in the evenings on Toledo Bend. We're catching them in about 15 to 25 foot near the edge of the main lake flats on silver jigging spoons. Then back over on Sam Rayburn, been producing a lot of whites lately as well. similar pattern there. Fish being caught out on the main lake points with chrome jigging baits of a different variety, jigging spoons, little blade baits, and that kind of thing. Now, we're going to talk about some catfish real quick this week. Mr. Thurman Selman tells me that some big blue catfish are being caught on Richland Chambers. They're catching them by drift fishing, using live bait on the main lake. Now, that's a really fun, relaxing way to fish, and it produces some really big ones. So get out there and try that. Now, here on Toledo Bend, we're seeing some really big schools of catfish as well. They're hanging out in about 18 to 25 foot of water under the shad schools. You can drop a live minnow down about a foot off the bottom and catch a lot of them. Now, I'm going to finish out with the largemouth bass this week on Lake Buchanan. I'm hearing that the topwater bite is really good early and late using walking bait. And then out on the rock piles, out to about 20 foot, they're catching them good while the sun's up on worms rigged on a shaky head and crankbaits as well. Up at OH Ivy, there's a good topwater bite early and late once again. And then during the day, Carolina rigs have been the best, fished out in about 15 to 25 foot of water. And rounding out with Sam Rayburn again, topwater bite over the grass early, and then the fish are being caught out deeper during the day near the ends of the points and the flats with soft plastics, Texas rigs, and Carolina rigs. And then if you wanted a big fish, big crankbaits are also producing some of the biggest fish on Rayburn right now. So use those big deep diving Berkeley plugs and catch you a big one out there.
All right, Bub, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots for the Middle Fresh region. He says the crappie are biting well in 15 to 30 feet of water on live minnows and panfish assassin jigs. And then the white bass are biting chrome jigging baits in 15 to 25 feet. And then the catfish are being caught on drifting live baits on the main lake areas. And the largemouth, let's not forget them. Those bass are being caught on topwaters, walk the dog type of baits and worms. But the biggest ones are being caught on crankbaits.
Check, check, and check.
Yeah, man.
Love it. All right, now we're drifting down to the lower coast region and seeing what our weekend has in store for us on the water with Captain Chad Kinney. Go for it, Chad.
Well, the weekend's looking really good, whether you're heading offshore or inshore, and I'll get your report so you get a good choice of what you're going to do there. Just one real quick note, the Port Mansfield Fishing Tournament, July 14th through 17th, is coming up real quick around the corner. That's both bay and offshore. That's held at the Chamber there in Port Mansfield. It's a good event for all family and kids and stuff. So talking about the inshore fishing, this stuff keeps on changing down here with the weather patterns. What I'm talking about, we've had some pressures out here and some hotter weather, and then, of course, some higher winds than normal, and then now it's going to be really nice again. So with this better weather, look to the jetties, and you're going to get some better watercolor. You can get some better tidal movement for these redfish action. And then also the flounder bite continues to be way above average along the guts and the drop-offs on the ICW, which is the intercoastal waterway there. So starting out with the redfish action, like I said, in the jetties, when that thing gets on and everything's right, it's some of the best fishing you can get possibly there. It's really good. So look for that water clarity. If it's really muddy, no clarity, it's really not going to be on too good. But you start getting that turquoise and that greener water there, and you get some little bit of tidal movement. I kind of prefer like a lower tide when the tide's moving out. That seems to get the bite going there. So what you need to do is you got to be patient for these redfish. You got to work the drop-offs and the eddies that form around those jetties and the holes and the washouts, and try using a 3/4 ounce to even a 1 ounce jig head with a fish bite attached, and work the bottom there. They're going to be down towards the bottom unless you see a big school, which is pretty rare, but sometimes they'll pop up. You can see a big brown patch, and you can cast, topwater plugs. You can cast anything on there, you can go nuts. So, but if you're using some live bait, live croaker works really good down there, and a little Carolina rig and some finger mullet on an Eagle Claw 7/0 tail hook works really good. As far as a mono leader, we usually use about a 40-pound up to 60-pound of the Memorial mono leader. Works really good around that jetty area. And there's been good numbers of slot redfish. Also, some big oversized bull reds are in the mix there from Port A jetties, Port Mansfield jetties, and down to South Padre Island. So going to the flounder fishing, which we talked about a little bit more this year than normal because there's above average, say the least, like I said. But the main thing here is you got to be patient, and you got to be really focused on these fish to be successful on it. You got to look for the guts, basically, along the intercoastal waterway or channels that are heading out to the Gulf, like Mansfield has the East Cut there. Lots of good drop-offs and holes and guts through there. Best time, in my opinion, on this is like when the outgoing tide just starts and the movement starts going off those flats, and those fish will be hanging right there in the edge of those drop-offs along the grass lines, and they're going to ambush the bait coming off there. So use a 3/4 ounce Eagle Claw jig head and put a strip of fish bites on there, attach that to it, and just slowly work the drop-offs in every angle. You can't pitch 2, 3, 4 casts in and move to another gut. You got to work it really hard every angle, and all you're going to feel is a little thump normally, let it sit for a second, pause for a second before setting the hook. Go ahead and set it, and then keep that flounder in the water. If feasible, what I mean is don't lift them up or straight up. Kind of keep your rod to the angle and to the side and slide them into your dip net. If you're wading up in the bank, slide them up in the bank. That's always talk about that. But in this, basically repeat the same game plan I mentioned about if you're on the ICW or guts or deeper spoil banks with guts, just kind of try that in different areas. You'll find some good success right now on that. Moving to offshore, state and federal water snapper fishing has just been off the hook. It's been really good. Water clarity's coming in. Blue water's there. It's looking a lot better. Water's also warmed up, which means the kingfish have popped up here, and they're closer into the inshore stuff and the jetties around the structure. And out deeper, there's been really good reports of billfish action from Port A, Mansfield, and down to South Padre Island also. Like I said, the kingfish showed up along the lower coast. There've been some pretty good numbers out there. They've been holding in from that 30-foot, around the jetties out to 150-foot deep. Look for some good water clarity or color changes, especially if you're fishing outside those jetties. You'll see that first color change, maybe in the second one, those color changes and bait balls around there, and hit those. Throw some mirror lure divers. Make sure you're rigging with wire. These toothy, creatures there. They'll snap it real quick. And I like throwing between 5 and 7 knots, preferably around that 5 and 6 knot range on those divers. It works even better on a good bite. A good combo we use on this. Been using for years a Penn International 16 wide. You spool it up with a Moy 30-pound mono, so it gives it a little bit of a shock in there and stretch. This will handle any kingfish that you can handle into. You catch a 60-pounder, it's going to hold it. It's got plenty of line, and that mono will hold it no problem. Also, just rig it with wire in the bait. If you're hitting the bait balls out there, which your bait's starting to show up, which is good, you can hit like a silver spoon or a mirror lure diver. You can tie that to your Penn 6500 spin fisher and just cast in those bait balls. I run my X3 shallow sport out there all the time, and we'll jump from bait ball to bait ball to bait ball, and you hit Spanish mackerel, king mackerel. There's, tarpon will be moving in there later on those. Moving over to billfish reports, been really good. I've been hearing a lot more stuff on sailfish, white marlin. There's been some good blues. We caught a few blues here a couple weeks ago I talked to you all about. But they're definitely out there, and kind of in the shallow areas too. The fireman small holes been really good on some sailfish action. You can pull some islander lures, really like those, rigged up with ballyhoo. The speed on those, the troll is about 7 to 8 knots. Work those weed lines and color changes out there for your success on that. And definitely keep an eye on your GARMIN sounder. You got to look for stay on that weed line, stay on the temperature changes with the GARMIN also, but look for those bait balls down there. They're going to be at 50 feet, 100 feet. The shallower, the better. They're going to be on feeding on those bait balls, so stay in that area where you're marking those. You'll have a lot more success. So I've got a picture here of a sailfish. This is caught out of South Padre Island, released off of Saltwalker out of South Padre there.
All right,
and the last thing I'll just go with is Mansfield Marina. We're here in Port Mansfield. We got fuel docks, everything else, tackling bait. So if you guys got any questions, give me a call.
Yep, go by and tell Chad we said hello. Make sure you buy some good stuff. He's got a lot of cool stuff in little...
And say hi to the birdie, too.
Yeah, man. All right, let's take a look at the shallow sport. Lower coast hotspots inshore. Lower coast jetties are starting to produce some slots. An oversized redfish with water clarity and tides are when the tides are good. And then offshore, the state and federal snapper season is excellent. With warmer waters, the kingfish are starting to show up. Also, I was just starting to giggle when you said about the bird.
Oh yeah, we remember them.
Yeah, man.
The resident parrot. All right, get ready to cast because we're pulling up some biggins in the lower fresh region. And Dave has some new products to share with us at the workbench. Dave?
I do. My favorite shorts.
Ooh, those look comfortable.
Yes, they are. They're very nice. Bath coats.
I believe I have a ladies
We're
version of
going to
those.
talk about those in a minute.
All right, we'll be back with Dave as a model.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Mirror. Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Fenwick, feel everything. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours. And STARTRON, start, run, and store with STARTRON.
Today's PowerPole tip is about the new PowerPole Charge power management station. The cool thing about the Charge is it replaces 3 systems on your boat. It replaces your traditional 3 or 4 bank battery charger, so when you're at the house, you plug it into the wall. The PowerPole Charge is going to optimize and balance your batteries like nothing ever out there. It also replaces your on-the-run charger, so anytime you've got the Yamaha running, it's going to replace the power in your trolling motor batteries and your cranking batteries all day while you're running from spot to spot. And the third thing it does, it's got an emergency start feature in it. So if you're ever out there and your cranking battery dies and you can't get the motor started, go to the Sea Monster app, transfer the power, and you're good to go. Get back to the dock. For any more information about the POWERPOLE charge, you can go to powerpole.com or stop by one of your local dealers. That's your POWERPOLE tip.
So Dave, Taco Marine is going to actually let us talk about some cool new products tonight. So what do you got over here at the workbench?
Well, first off, we've got the AFTCO M103s. They're the everyday fishing shorts. You know, AFTCO for a long time, they had a whole marketing campaign around a pair of shorts that were indestructible. And these are pretty indestructible. Those, yeah, they're pretty.
These are definitely not my size.
No, they're pretty wide. They're wide. I'm ashamed. But anyway, they come in 4 colors, size 28 to 42. That's nowhere near the 42, by the way. UPF 50. Go-to for comfort. They got a nice little elastical band there. That's their word, elastical. I think it's a word. Durable nylon construction, a lot of pockets. The button on there won't ever come off. You know, that's the first thing that usually breaks for a lot of fellas like me. That poor front button we put a lot of pressure on. It screams a lot of times. But then, and they also inside they have a drawstring, so you can put a little, you know, if you don't want to put a belt on, it has belt loops, but you can, you know, tie it up with a drawstring inside. It's got an 8-inch inseam and a 19-inch outseam. Got a water-resistant and stain-resistant coating. They're AFTCO shorts, so you can't break them, you know, and they won't get stained. That's the great thing about them. Right. AFTCO.com.
Absolutely. Next,
we got the Redfish rig from Eagle Claw. We got 2 different sizes. We got the 5.0 and the 7.0. We got the 48-inch. Is the 5? Did you lose something? You're all hooking up.
I dropped it.
But anyway, this is made for, you know, when you're fishing for a great big redfish around the jetties or something in an inlet. You know, 40, 50 pound, you know, big redfish. Got a nice black wire leader on here. Nice 2 beads and a stop, actually, so you can put your weight on there and have your weight slide back and forth. And a little 5/0 or 7/0 O'Shaughnessy hook there. So, you know, really good.
I like the fact that you could put your weight here, you can drop him down, Dave.
Yeah.
And now your fish is kind of like on a tether. He's on a little leash.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is that bait, that pinfish, that croaker, whatever it is that you may be
cut bait.
using.
You can even put cut bait.
Yep. Exactly. But the good part is he's not necessarily anchored to the bottom. He's free swimming, which makes him more enticing.
Yep, there you go. Go get you one of those at the Eagle Claw. Next, we have the TH Marine Swivel Eye Snap. It's got a 130-pound workload, breaks about at 350 pounds. It's made out of solid brass, got a little stainless steel spring inside. That's like a 3 3/4 inch one right there. It's great for all kinds of quick attachments.
You know why I like it, Dave? Is because I can tie this on the tower of my flats boat and use this as a stakeout, have one on one end and one on the other. So it's big enough to go on my cleat and a bow eye, then still go around a push pole or go around the power pole spike. And I have it where it's not getting all twisted up as I bounce in the waves while I'm waiting for the tarpon to swim by.
There you go.
So it makes a great stakeout rope, stakeout tool. T&H Marine.
You can put your dock lines, your bumpers,
of
you know,
course. A million things.
Yeah, anything you need a quick release snap. There you go. THMarine.com. Last but not least here, we've got the Taco Marine ratchet hinge. It's called the Command ratchet hinge. This is the 18.5-inch version. They made this a little bigger version. It's a heavy-duty hinge. You know, it has that one locking position at 61.5 degrees. You know, it's perfect for a sun pad or a bolster or a lounge backrest.
Right.
You know, on a pontoon or a deck boat or even on the big front of a big sport fisher. I imagine you could put one. Polished stainless steel. It mounts above the deck. It'll hold up to a 4-inch thick cushion, so you can put real big fat cushions on there. It holds 500 pounds. They sell them in pairs, so you know.
So you can make yourself a little bench, armrest, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a cool bracket there.
Yeah, TacoMarine.com to get one of those. They sold them, like I said, they sold them in pairs, so you can have a big, nice seat in there.
All right.
Is it elastical, Dave?
It's elastical.
I love that word.
It's a good word.
It's a good word. All right, we're headed into the last region for the week, the lower fresh region, with Matt Reed, who's got your 6 on Choke Canyon, Amistad, Decker, and Lake Falcon. So listen up.
All right, let's get this thing started, Brie. We're going to start off talking about the bass, which I do most weeks. Mike Bates has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. The bass fishing has been really good for when the water temperatures are approaching 90 degrees. His numbers on his half-day trips have been running 40 to 50 with size up to 8 pounds. Top water fishing is the best it's been this year. In most areas, it lasts till about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, so you need to get out there early. Buzz baits, frogs, and walking baits have been your best producers. After that, there's a lot of moving bait bites around the grass. Chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, swim baits, and square bills are your best shot for those fish then. After the sun gets on up a little higher, pick your Texas rig up and get on that outside edge, and you can get bites like that all day. There's still a good bite out deep in that 10 to 20 foot range just out on the structure. Carolina rigs and deep diving crankbaits have been the best bet there. One of my favorite ways to fish is punching through the matted hydrilla. You want to get you a 1 ounce weight on braided line with a creature bait of some type on a heavy rod. Flip it in that heaviest mat, yo-yo it up and down a little bit. That's a fun way to catch them, and you catch giants doing that. Lake Amistad, the bass are biting really well. The water level is approaching record low, but the fishing is still holding up. You can catch them in several ways right now. Top water, swim jigs around the thick vegetation in the morning. Later, you want to throw a 10-inch worm with a light Texas rig weight around the outside edge, and also where there's some tapered grass out from the hydrilla to catch a bunch. There's some big ones being caught on the football jigs in 20 to 30 foot out on the deep rock drops at the end of the points and along the river channel. If you want to fish the bluffs with a drop shot, that's a great way to catch a ton of numbers. Sure is fun to take a kid and do that. Brian Cotter sent me reports from the Austin area. Lake Travis is fishing well. Still some schooling fish in the marinas early in the morning, but the best bites out deep on the rock drops. If you want to throw a football jig, a shaky head, or a drop shot out on those drops at 15 to 35 feet of water to catch your best fish during the day. Decker is fishing well. The outside edge of the grass with a Texas rig and a jig has been really good. Also look for the brush piles in 10 to 20 feet of water and throw your Texas rig in there to add some fish later on in the day. Falcon is still fishing really well right now. The bite's pretty dependable on the rock ledges and brush piles. Stand-up heads with Magnum straight-tail worms and Texas rigs are your best bet. Crankbait bites also going strong right now on the rock ledges. Can't throw them through the brush piles. You end up hung up too many times, but it's a great way to catch you a big one out on the rock ledges. If you love that, just throw it and wind it for hours. You won't get as many bites, but a lot of them will be giants. Summer is just awesome down here to catch a giant. I love it this time of year. It's my favorite time to chase the big ones. Got 2 pictures there. Mike Bates with a photo of a big old fish from Choke Canyon on one of his recent trips, and then that's Brian Cotter and a client from one of the Austin area lakes with a nice little double there. Going to move on and talk about the catfish. Ram Reyes sent me a report from Falcon. The catfish is biting excellent at night. Water down here is dropping really fast with evaporation, and the fish are moving out. They're out there on the creek ledges, the river ledges. They're biting all over the lake on those drops right now. You want to get you some fresh cut bait, either gizzard shad or carp. Get out there and you can catch a lot of big ones. Got a picture there of one of his clients with a great big old blue cat. Those things get so big. They're always a battle and fun to catch.
So, Matt, how do you guys deal with the heat? Are you going early and then coming back out in the afternoon, going in the middle of the day?
Nah, I mean, the heat, as long as you got a breeze, you can deal with it. I mean, it's 108 today, and we made it fine. If you don't have wind, it gets too hot. Going out in the afternoon doesn't do you any good because the hottest part of the day is, say, from 5 to 8 o'clock in the afternoon. So, you just make it as long as you can. As long as you have a breeze, Rick, you'll be able to make it through the day just fine.
All right, my man. We appreciate you very much. Look forward to seeing you soon. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Fiber Tech hotspots from the Lower Fresh region. He said Lake Amistad, the bass are biting well in several ways. Top waters, Texas rigs, swim jigs around the high drill are all producing well. The deep water bite is kicking out some of the big ones on football jigs near the river drops with large rocks. And then if you're in the numbers thing and your gold is a drop shot, then off of those bluffs, that's going to be the ticket for lots of fishes.
Will sweat for big bass.
Yeah, man.
I think you're not even sweating at that point. It's so hot. You're just hot.
You got a hot wind on your shoulder.
Got a hot wind. Oh, the bird is cracking.
Did you have
from
a good
Mansfield
bird?
Marina? I had a great. Is that for me?
That's for you.
Tin, I think I need more of this stuff today. Thanks for joining us, guys. Get out there, stay cool, catch fish.
Bye, guys.